called in
to Bucks and Brews, you might hear something
you can use.
like tips on your cash or tips on the suds.
You're gonna want to
The
use
smarts of these
because
stuff.
they know the brews.
And they know the Bucks, and they know they can't help the stubborn fucks.
So listen up, because shit's not funny.
Save yourself some
Beer money. Bucks
and brews.
Bucks and
Bucks
And brews.
brews.
Bucks and Brews.
Welcome back to Bucks and Brews. Nick, what
Hey.
you drinking?
I am actually drinking City of Byron Center tap water tonight.
That's shocking.
Yeah,
I'm just going
not
to get
because
my
I-
drink. 1 second. Keep
Sure.
going.
it's not because I don't have Bud Light with me. I do. If you listen to our past episodes, there's some, I've been struggling with some weight loss things. So today I woke up and said, I'm just gonna do this, right? So I'm not cutting out beer forever. I'm doing a 10-day cleanse that my wife and I agreed that we're gonna give it a shot. To be honest, I have a buddy that listens to us quite a bit. He's been doing it. I'm very proud of him. He told me how much you lost, and I was like, shit, if you're losing that, like, I'm bigger than you. Like, let me
let's
see if I can give this a shot. 10 rough days, and then there's some steps up after that, so at least I'm in a guide of where I need to be. So that's really, guys, it's not that I'm not trying to be a drinker. I'm just trying to maybe have an extra episode or two in life with you guys.
Well, last week I had tea, so I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes we don't drink brews.
Yeah, and I tell you guys, we are Bucks and Brews. We're still drinking brews. Just tonight, I'm trying to care about me for once.
Well, I'm going to pick it up for you.
I'm proud of you. What are you drinking?
From New Holland. I have Ichabod Pineapple Ale,
Pineapple ale.
pumpkin even.
Thank
Jesus,
you. Say
you
was
was
like,
you know what I was thinking of too. I had a pear beer this weekend,
yeah.
and Mike and I kept making
Peach.
jokes that I was drinking peach beer. So I have a New Holland Ichabod pumpkin ale because I can't tell the difference because I'm a moron. And from Shorts, I have Soft Parade's fruit ale.
To tell you how much of like an alcoholic I'm not, you said Ichabod, and
Yeah.
I was like, oh, it's a great pumpkin beer.
Yeah.
And then you said pineapple, and I was like, I didn't know they made a pumpkin pineapple. Like, this is, and I know you don't like pineapple.
I
which
don't
is
like
even-
pineapple, which is even better.
So I'm like, this is great. Guys,
Hit us with yeah.
as always, like, subscribe, share, tell your friends, tell your family. Appreciate you listening to us. Tonight we have a guest because we want to talk about investing. And say he's going to give you a little bit about what he does, what he's done. And Jeff, thanks for joining us. Are you drinking anything tonight?
I'm drinking iced tea right now, sweet tea.
There you go.
I love all beers. I'm more of a liqueur guy. I love Kahlua, Bailey's. I just don't like the hard stuff like, tequila, whiskey, scotch,
Yeah.
those kind of things. And that's probably why I lived to 76, because I didn't like those things.
Oh man. So I think I'm definitely going to only last till like 12.
Yeah, I'm not gonna live to 76.
Yeah. The question was asked to me the other day about a drink or something, and they're like, "Oh, Nick, do you drink this?" And I was like, "Is there alcohol in it?" And they're like, yeah. It's like, so it doesn't really matter. I mean, if people ask, like, I'm not a huge tequila guy, but I will drink.
You know what you
Margaritas
find
like crazy.
interesting? I lived in Germany for 10 years. They basically don't have a drinking age in Germany.
Yeah.
My daughter used to go to this really cool club called Cristal that was like a half-mile walk from where all the Americans lived in Kaiserslautern, Germany. And you could go in there and they didn't card anybody. The basic drinking age in Germany was 2 marks. If you had 2 marks, you were in the club and they didn't care.
There you go.
Germans handle alcohol well. They don't need stupid laws like we have,
Yeah. Let's say we make dumb decisions, and we don't have
Yeah.
any public
You know,
transportation.
We
so-
don't handle anything well.
How come they can draft you at 18 and you can't have a beer till you're 21? That's a bunch of bullshit. as far
I
as
would
I'm
agree with
I
that.
say I agree. So Jeff, you're an investor.
Yes.
Are you still currently doing it?
Oh, yes, I am. More than
Smart.
ever.
More than ever.
I like hearing
So I was gonna
that.
say, so
I mean,
tell us a little
since-
bit about yourself, where you're from, and
Okay. I was born in New York City. I went out to college at the University of Arizona, shocking my parents because I'd never been further west than Philadelphia. I went from Tucson. I got a degree in government history, which was a total waste of time. Thank God I didn't incur a lot of student loans doing that. Then I went to Las Vegas and got a degree in accounting that really paid off for me. And then I luckily got hired by the U.S. Army as an auditor, and that enabled me to live overseas for 17 years. I lived 10 years in Germany, and I actually developed my investing program 10 miles south of the DMZ in South Korea. I basically stumbled on, I loved investing for a long time. If we have time, I'll tell you my original story of investing. I'll tell it. It's short and
Go
sweet.
for it.
When I was 8 years old, I lived in Ramsey, New Jersey, a little town of 7,000 people. The Erie-Lackawanna Railroad ran through the center of town. It was the classic 4-track railroad, freight trains in the middle, commuter trains to and from New York City on the edges. Well, I love trains for God knows what reason. So I remember my dad would bring home the newspaper, and every day I'd look at everything in the newspaper, and I noticed that Erie-Lackawanna had a stock, and it was selling for 2 5/8. Back then they sold them in fractions, not decimals. So I thought to myself, hey, I have $300 in my savings account. I could buy 100 shares of Erie-Lackawanna for $262. Well, unfortunately, my dad only saw the bad side of the Great Depression, which I'm sure was pretty rough. And he said, oh my God, don't ever invest a nickel in the stock market. You lose everything, blah, blah, blah. Well, unfortunately, my dad followed that philosophy religiously, so he never had a chance to leave us a nickel from investing. But I begged him enough, and finally I gave up. I woke up Christmas morning, go down to our basement, and my dad had bought me a model train set. I was ecstatic, best Christmas ever. Then I go to my Christmas stocking, and somehow or other, my dad had managed to buy me 5 shares of Erie-Lackawanna stock at 2 5/8. Because back then I thought everything was 100 share round lots, that you didn't have easy trading back then.
Sure.
So I didn't think much about it. Well, the following summer, the Penn Central Railroad bought the Erie-Lackawanna and redeemed every share of Erie stock for $16.
Wow.
I got a check for $80. And I'm thinking to myself, if my dad had let me buy 100 shares of stock, I would have gotten a check for $1,600 in 1955, and that would have been all the money in the world to an 8-year-old. But my dad did me the ultimate favor. He basically branded in my brain that investing was the secret of success for the rest of your life. And so I spent the rest of my literally days searching and searching for the best way to invest. And finally, I found it when I stumbled on a book in a used bookstore by Robert Lucillo called How to Make $1 Million Automatically. Catchy title.
Yeah.
Well, he basically invented what is called the AIM investing method, or automatic investment management system. And it's basically a contrary method. I'll give you just a quick example of how AIM would work. Say you bought I do it with Leaps. I don't know if you're familiar with options and Leaps. I do it with Leaps because they work much better. Let's say you bought a Leap for $10 or a contract for $1,000, the option for $10. You'd set up a simple spreadsheet with 13 columns. Very simple. And then you would say, okay, I bought it at $10. What do I want to buy more at? And of course, you want to buy more at a lower price.
Yep.
So I have found from 20 years experience, you want to buy at a price about 25% lower. So if you bought it at $10, you're going to put in, you want to buy more if the price goes down to $7.50. You're going to buy maybe 3 or 4 more contracts, because I always encourage people to buy 15 when you start. That's a good number to trade. And then you do the same thing with the sell side. I found from experience, you got to go a little higher on the sell side. So if you bought it at 10, I would tell you, let's sell 3 or 4 contracts at 30% higher. And options will do that. I had one of my clients, he bought an American Express option in the morning at $3.50. By the end of the day, that option had gone to $12.50. So they can spectacularly go up and down. So you set up the spreadsheet, and basically what you do so you don't miss them, you put in a limit buy and a limit sell. So the broker handles, your transactions automatically. You don't have to worry about missing them. And I've found it takes like 5 minutes to update any buy or sell you have. And every time you make a buy or sell, you will change both the next buy and the next sell. It's a simple formula. If you made a buy, obviously your next buy is going to even be lower, and your next sell is going to be lower because you've lowered your break-even point. So basically what AIM is a sophisticated dollar cost averaging system, but it involves both buying and selling. And the beauty of AIM is it's completely logical and takes the worst enemy of all investors out of play, and that is emotion.
Yep.
So all I have to do is sit down. I don't worry about Greeks. I don't any of that bullshit. All I need is a piece of 8.5 by 11 piece of paper in front of me with the AIM 13 columns of information and my calculator, and then I can figure out easily how to do it. It's just a brilliant way to invest. How do I know it works? Well, I have, you see the background of my sunroom where I'm sitting right now, because it gets hot in the sunroom because it doubles as a greenhouse some of the time. And San Antonio has been averaging 100 degrees for, it seems like, the last 8 years, so I usually work with no shoes and no shirt. Well, I'm probably the most successful investor who's never worn shoes or a shirt helping investors, because I have made a lot of small investors more than $10 million.
I say that's good money. How many investors have you helped, you said?
I would say I've helped 150 in my lifetime. And the beauty of it is, AIM, I'll give you my best success story.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you can make the most money when you think the country has gone to hell. I had a guy start with 550,000 in January of 2020, the year of COVID. That's when all the factories laid people off. Yep. Everybody gets sent home. It was like pure hell for so many people. Many people died, et cetera, et cetera. Well, my buddy, using AIM, went from 550,000 in January to 1,750,000 in December for a gain of 1,250,000. And what I was proudest of, he didn't know anything in January. He had learned so much from me by June. He did the second half of the year himself. I had taught him so well, he was able to do it himself, because I'm old. My goal is to teach everybody how to do it themselves. And the beauty of AIM is it's a lifetime investing method. You can do it forever. And I tell people, you're not just learning it for yourself. When you learn it, you can pass it on to your kids, your grandkids, your friends, because more than ever, all of us need an ultimate side hustle,
You're not wrong.
Quick and simple to do, that AI or whatever the hell else is going to come down the road can't replace. You'll never lose your job with AIM. AIM will keep you employed forever. And the beauty of it is, I've been writing my newsletter for 30 years. Leaps came along maybe 20 years ago. They didn't exist when I first learned AIM. But once I learned them, they work perfectly. Why? Because if you look at Leaps, you will find 2 amazing factors about Leaps. One, they average about 25% the cost of the stock. So if the stock is $100, you can buy the option for $25. Okay. Plus, they go up, they have much more volatility than the stock does. So they go up 4 or 5 times as fast as the stock does. That's why I guarantee you that day American Express Leap went from 350 to 1250. The stock didn't triple, maybe went up 5 or 10%. So the beauty of it is, and what I do it with leaps. Leaps are a unique form of options that have 2 important characteristics. One, they have more than a year before they expire. So for example, right now I have everybody in the January 17th, 2025 options. And literally within less than 2 weeks, the 26 options will be issued in the middle of September. And like I said, if the stock goes up 2%, the option is very likely to go up 10 or 12%. So you can easily get trades much more frequently and make much higher profits. And to me, a long-term option or leap is absolutely as safe as the stock. I guarantee you Apple leaps are just as safe as Apple stock, but they will make you a lot. I give you a perfect example. I have an in-the-money portfolio in my newsletter I started 17 years ago. With that model portfolio, I'm a one-man band, by the way. I do all this myself, which I find amazing how much I get done. So I write the newsletter every month.
Mhm.
All I have time for is to look at the price of the option once, arbitrarily, usually around the 5th or 6th of the month. I write that price down on the model portfolio spreadsheet. Then I use that price to decide if that particular leap has a buy or sell. So it's not the best price or the worst price, it's just a random price. So by spending literally about 2 hours a month on that portfolio, just Apple alone has gone from 75,000, the model portfolio amount I started with, to 12 million. Because once you get over 1 million or 2 million, you can't believe how big the compounding becomes, because it has averaged, that portfolio in 17 years is up 2,080%. So it has been averaging 100% a year, regardless of what the stock market has been doing for the last 17 years. So, and it's basically gone through 2 major bear markets, the financial meltdown in 8 and 9, and whatever, if you want to call the current one,
Yeah.
And here's the other beauty of AIM and using it with options. You don't have to have a bull market to be making money. If you have a severe bear market, guess what? AIM works just as good with puts as it does with calls. And I even started a new service in April, because I had a lot of people that didn't have enough money to do what I call regular AIM, which, usually takes 50 to 100,000 to do. They might have 2,000 or 3,000. So I came up with what I call lean AIM. Actually, I first came up with the term naked AIM for it. I thought that was a better, my partner didn't like that, so he didn't have a sense of humor. And the difference is, okay, I'll give you a good example. I had a guy who decided he had 5,000 available. So I told him, let's buy 1 contract on Tesla at the money on the 2025. It might have been the strike 250 call or something like that. Well, within a month, and then as soon as he bought it for 5,000, we put in a sell for 25% higher. So that meant we put in a limit sell for 6,500. He got that sell a month later. And I've got a binder over here in my sunroom with about 90 lean AIM sells. And the average time is about a month. And I tell people, I said, you might not think 25% is going to get you the retirement you want, but think about this. If you got a way to invest with lean AIM that averages a sell about once a month, if you compound your profits 10 times $1,000 grows to $9,300 in less than a year.
Yeah.
That's an average of 830% a year profit. That's pretty damn good. There's nothing like it out there. Nobody else is doing it. I've had amazing, and what I find amazing is leaps are totally undiscovered by the rest of the world. I remember one day, believe this or not, I looked at an Apple leap, and right at the money, which should have been one of the more popular ones, 150 contracts traded. I was responsible for the trading of 130 of those 150 through me and my clients.
Wow.
At least 10 times, I have been the sole market maker on a particular trade at a particular strike price. You look at the volume and you'll see 10, it was my 10. So what you'll find amazing is on a given day, Apple will trade 55 million shares of stock. You look at the option in the money, you're lucky if 50 contracts traded. 55 million shares and 50 contracts, so 50 times 100 means like 5,000 options traded versus 55 million. I don't understand that, because my slogan I tell all my clients is, if you like the stock, you love the leap, because the leap will make you so much more money, and it's absolutely as safe as owning the stock itself, because I have a formula for doing it right, and it works out beautifully with leaps, because it's very easy, because they all expire the same day. So if I have somebody in a portfolio of 10 leaps, which is the ideal number, what I'll tell them is, okay, the new ones come out in the middle of September. Sometime around October or November, we're going to roll over those 25 leaps to 26 leaps. Now you've got 2 years, 2 months before they expire. You got plenty of time for the bull market to return. And another amazing fact that a lot of people don't realize is how well stock markets recover after a bear market. Like I said, I've been writing my newsletter 30 years. I was begging people in March 2009 to buy stocks back then and leaps, because the prices were dirt cheap because of the total collapse. Well, I stumbled many years later, I got the brilliant idea. I wonder how those stocks were doing 10 years later, or 10 years after, which is a great rock group.
Yeah.
So I looked them up. I can even send that to you if you're curious. So what I did, I looked at all the prices I had it from March 09, and I wrote the price in like March 2018 next to it. And I can still remember a couple of them. For example, American Express stock was $11 a share in 09. 10 years later, it was $91 a share. No. Boeing was $32 a share in March 09. 10 years later, it was $360. That's for the stock. I've never found a source for old leap prices, but I can guarantee you the leaps would have gone up. If the stock went up 1,000%, the leap would have gone up 5,000% at least. So, I see that pattern over and over and over. So stock markets not only recover from bear markets, they go higher. And I'll give you an idea of the original. Here's a funny story I found. One of the smartest investors who ever lived is a guy you've probably heard of called Bernard Baruch. Have you ever heard of him? A legendary genius. How do we know he's one of the smarter investors? Because he wasn't one of the guys jumping out windows when the crash of 29 came along. How do we know he still had money? Because in 1931, when the Dow Jones hit its all-time low of 41, I mean, right now it's 36,000, so 41 to 36,000 to me is a bullish trend, long term. Well, Baruch called up his broker in 1931 and said, I want you to buy $10,000 worth of every stock in the Dow Jones Industrial Average, all 30 stocks. So that cost him $300,000 in 1931 dollars, probably 10 million today. I don't know, who knows. His broker told him, "You're crazy." And Baruch said, "Do it." Well, by doing that, and he did that when he was 59, he lived to be 95. He became a multi-billionaire. You know, you think many people would like to use their Wayback Machine and go back to 1931 and buy a few shares?
Oh,
You know?
absolutely.
So I tell people, and so my basic strategy when I'm doing AIM, since, you know, I'm a contrary guy, buy low, sell high, I look for stocks that have fallen out of favor. Like there's a, you know, a segment might be out of favor. And so the stock goes down to its 52-week low. Because I love to tell people, I said, you might not think about this, but think about it. I'm going to plant this thought in your brain. Every stock has a 52-week high and a 52-week low next to it. You know, go to Yahoo Finance, for example, and you can quickly see if a stock you're thinking of buying is at or near its 52-week low. I mean, like right now, I'm screaming to tell people Disney's at a 6-year low. You can get a leap on Disney for less than $5. So you could buy a contract for $500. You know, hold it for a year or so, and I guarantee you make the 25% profit on it. You know, so over and over, you know, I tell people, I say, you know, for some reason, options have always had a bad reputation, and I don't quite understand why. And I mean, have you ever heard of a financial analyst with 16 Series 7 licenses ever telling somebody to buy an option? They want to sell you an annuity or a mutual fund because they make a higher commission.
Yep.
You know what it's going to cost you to buy 10 contracts on a lean AIM option? It's going to cost you $6.50. That's because it isn't even a commission anymore.
Right.
So, I mean, you can't even get a Big Mac for that. You know what I mean?
Who's saying who are you buying through, I guess?
I use E-Trade as my broker.
E-Trade. Okay.
Yeah, you got to open a stockbroker account and get, with most brokers, it's called Series 2 permission, which just means you can buy and sell options up to the amount of money in your account. So if you put 10,000 in there, you could buy up to 10,000 worth of options.
Sure.
You know, we don't do anything fancy. I'm not doing iron condors and butterflies and all this weird crap. I don't ever use a Greek. I don't need to. And when people ask me what technical analysis do I use, I go, I use the price of the stock and the leap. I don't need to worry about it. You know, there's plenty of other people, probably a lot smarter than me. And every day I see articles recommending a stock. And when they recommend one and I think I like it, I go and do 2 minutes of research on Yahoo Finance. I see if it's at or near its 52-week low. And then there's an amazing trick. I don't know if you know this one. Did you know if you go to Yahoo Finance, you can actually see how the leap itself has performed for like the last 6 months or year?
No.
No, didn't know that.
Okay. I can quickly show you if you can want to get on your computer.
Yeah, sure.
But I just, it's really simple. You go, let's say you type in Apple, you know, or on Yahoo Finance.
Okay.
Okay.
APPL
You'll see. Okay.
or AAPL, right? Yep.
AAPL, right?
Yep.
Okay. It always defaults to the summary page for the stock.
Yep.
Now, what you have to do, for some reason, it defaults to 1D, so you'll see a chart for 1 day, which is useless.
Yep.
I always click on a year and I look at the chart, you know,
Okay.
and immediately you will see peaks and valleys,
Mhm.
right? Okay. Then I look down the first column underneath the chart, and I look for the 52-week high and low, right there for me to see. You know, I think
Yep.
Apple's not quite at its high, but it's not very low right now.
It's currently at
that's-
182. Its low is
124 and its high is 198.
There you go. So I own Apple myself right now. Now let me show you the Leaps license. I call it the Leaps license plate. Okay, click on options right above the chart. And you see that?
Yep.
Like a blue option word up there?
Yep.
Right above the chart in that row?
Yep.
Okay, click on that and you will see Yahoo Finance defaults to the shortest term option, which I believe is September 1st or 3rd or something. Okay, what you want to do, go to that date box where you see the September option and you see a down arrow.
Mhm.
Click on that down arrow and you'll see a drop-down menu and then click on January 17th, 2025. See that?
Yep.
Okay, so now you're in the options, okay? I hope I'm not insulting your intelligence. 'Cause I
No,
know-
go right ahead.
We're learning.
Okay, but the ones at the top you'll see are in like a light blue color. That means they're in the money, which means the strike price is higher than the stock price.
Okay.
So I look for ones right about at the money. So I go about where the blue ends and the white begins. So scroll down a little. So, okay, if it's 180, for the hell of it, we'll say, let's go down and find, say, the 180 call. Okay. Okay, you see that row?
Yep.
Okay, you get a lot of good information. You see how many contracts are owned. I think it's around 4,000 or 5,000. And you see how many were traded that day. You'll see it's a minuscule number, 40, 50, something like that. Okay, now here's the way to find the Leaps license plate or how the option itself has been performing. And I found from experience, 6 months is a good enough time. So go all the way across to the first column and you'll see these weird looking number letter things that look like a VIN number. You see
Yep.
those? So click on that. It's a hot link that'll show you how the Leap itself is done. So click on that.
Yep.
And then when you click on it, a lot of times you have to scroll up a little bit to see the chart. Now, when you scroll up, a lot of times you don't see the chart because, again, it defaults to 1 day.
Right.
So go across the top of the chart and click on 6M to see how the Leap is done for the last 6 months.
Sure.
And you'll see lots of peaks and valleys.
Mhm.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
So I use that all the time. And in 2 minutes, I can tell somebody if I like a Leap they suggested to me, or I like, or one I like, I feel like it's safe to tell them to buy it because it's a good time to buy it. I'm looking for, I've seen a lot of them where say like Apple went up, but then in the last 2 months, it went from like 190 to 160, something like that. And I'll say, that's a good, because I said, all it has to do is go back to 190, which it was at a month ago, and you'll get your lean aim sell, boom.
Yeah.
So you see the volatility that you get with the options. It's just incredible. And again, Yahoo Finance is very easy to navigate. It's free, and you can look up anyone you like in there and decide, if it's a good one for you or not. Isn't that amazing?
Very interesting.
Yeah. So that's what I tell people. I say, I point out all these tips to my clients, and I use them too. And believe me, I am pretty much a tech dummy. So I just learned that by accident. I must have accidentally clicked on it one time, and then I saw how it worked, and I kept it in my brain to use forever and ever.
So there you go.
And get this, here's an amazing fact. SIBO, Chicago Board of Equity, used to print a list of all the Leaps when they came out.
Mhm.
For unknown reasons to me, they stopped doing that. Literally, I have to create my own list of all the Leaps to have a master list of about 500 leaps that are available, to use with AIM. And the thing that saved me is what I basically do, when the 26s come out, I'm going to pull up my 25 leaps on one screen on my computer. And then I'm going to go to Yahoo Finance again, and I'm going to look at every one of the 25s to see if they have 26s. And that will become my new master list. Takes me about 4 or 5 hours. I don't know why they stopped doing it. It's almost like they don't want you to buy leaps. They don't make it easy to get information on them.
Sure.
And I don't understand that, So I'm glad I discovered them, because I've got my average investor is somebody in their 40s or 50s who hasn't saved a nickel towards retirement and is panicking, I tell them, AIM is the way to do it. And I have a good trick for this, because the only disadvantage of AIM is it's all short-term gains, short-term capital gains.
Yep.
So what you want to do is do all your AIM investing inside a Roth IRA, so you'll never pay any future taxes on all those profits. And
Sure.
I guarantee you do Roth for 10 years, you'll have a couple $100,000 in that Roth, and you can keep compounding away at 25, 50, 100% a year forever and never pay taxes on it. That's the way to do it. So there's a few little tax loopholes for us small guys. Take full advantage of them, And so I pass on all these. There's even a tip. If you have a regular IRA, I have an article that explains how to backdoor a regular IRA into a Roth IRA. So I tell people, because even a regular IRA, you're deferring taxes for a while, but once you retire and start taking the money out, they're going to want taxes. So I'd say, you're still better off changing to a Roth if you can, and even right now you can put in, $7,000 a year, I think, on a Roth, something like that.
Yep.
But, it's a very clever tool. Get this, there's one billionaire who founded one of the big, he might have founded Netflix or something like that. And guess what this guy does? You want to hear the ultimate tax dodge? He has get this, he has a Roth IRA with over $5 billion in it. You know what he did? He said, I can contribute 7,000. Well, you know what he would contribute? He set up all these private companies and valued the stock at 1 penny. So he would put in, 700,000 shares of the stock at 1 penny into the Roth. And then suddenly that stock would go public, and now it's selling for $10.
Sure.
And all of that gain is tax-free because it's in his Roth.
Wow.
There's a lot of tricks out there I've learned through the years, and so, maybe we can't do that, but geez, wouldn't you like to have 1 or 2 million in a Roth that's never going to be taxed again?
Definitely.
Yeah, see, it'll.
So, there's a lot of tricks out there, and I've tried to learn all of them and pass them on to all my investors, because, I tell people, I said, I've never seen economic life as hard as it is now. And I honestly don't see any major breakthrough that's going to come along and suddenly we're going to return to the Garden of Eden. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I tell people, I say, if you're worried about your job getting replaced by artificial intelligence, you need, AIM. You start doing AIM and make millions with AIM, it will never get replaced with artificial intelligence. Plus, when you're doing investing, you can take your laptop to the beach. The guy I helped make the $1.25 million, he used to live in Portland, Oregon, and he had colon cancer and had to get a tube in his stomach, the poor guy. He had a horrible life, Well, I made him so much money, he was able to build a custom home in Mexico and live there with his wife. He had everything he wanted over there, you know. So my whole goal in life is to help other people. I've never really gotten rich myself off of this because I take care of my family. They always come first. But I loved, you know, helping him, and I've helped so many other people with, you know, when you're helping people if you made $10 million for them over your lifetime is the way I
Yeah.
view it, you know. And so, you know, and I teach them a valuable skill that's simple to learn, you know, it's not hard. And basically what I do for my clients, I charge very reasonable rates, you know, and what I do, my key area to help them is I look up the price of about 150 leaps every day. That's a lot of work, let me tell you. I've figured out some shortcuts, whatever, you know, and I've got some leaps that are so good, I have 3 or 4 people in the same stock and strike price, you know, whatever. So I only have to look it up once. So I might have 10 different prices on Apple, depending on who the investor is. So I look up Apple on my phone in E-Trade, and I write down those 10 prices. So I can look up about 150 in maybe an hour and a half, you know. Then I pray, and I, you know, tried to beat into their thick little skulls. Please tell me when you have a buy or sell, because the secret of AIM is you got to take action immediately. You know, if your leap goes from, you know, if your leap hits your $20 sell price, and now you will have a profit of, you know, $5,000. Well, guess what? If you never put in the limit sell, and I called you or texted you and begged you to, you know, to do it, you're not going to get that profit,
Right.
you know, because the price is, that's why you like them. They are volatile, but that means what goes up will come down if you don't take action on it. So, you know, over and over, but AIM is so forgiving. I've had many stupid people, in my opinion, who didn't make a sell, you know, when I told them, and that sell hung around for 2 or 3 days, and I finally got the sell for him. I can't tell you how many times I said, you know, like, hey, Charlie, you have a sell at $10, you know, on Monday. I don't hear from Charlie. I look Tuesday, Charlie, you have a sell for $10.50, even higher on Tuesday. I don't hear from Charlie. Charlie, you have a sell at $11 on Wednesday. And then finally, Charlie contacts me and he says, oh, I never put in the limit sell. I said, that's okay, Charlie. Your mistake has made you higher profits, because now what you're going to do is make a market sell tomorrow morning when the market opens at $11, and you're going to get an extra $1,000 profit. So AIM is the most forgiving way of investing I have ever seen. You know, it allows people to be stupid at times and still make even more money. I'm flabbergasted by that at times, but it's consistently worked. I've never seen a period over the 35 years I'm doing this where it failed. It just doesn't fail, because the nature of the stock market, as I tell people, I said, think of the stock market as the best roller coaster you ever rode in your life. We have one here in San Antonio called the Rattler, and it is spectacular. And it always has long lines. Why does it always have long lines? Because it's exciting and thrilling. Why is it exciting and thrilling? Because it goes up and it goes down. It just doesn't go sideways. You know, if it went sideways all the time, who the hell would ever ride it?
Right.
So I tell people, you know, I said, don't be shocked and start crying when you notice that all the stocks and leaps are going down. That's part of the process. If you study the stock market for like 100 years, you will find 50% of the time, the market has been bullish. About 20% of the time, it's been bearish. And the other 30% of the time, it's been sideways, pretty much sideways. But what I have found from experience with leaps, don't try and lump them all into one big basket. Because what I have found is regardless of whether the market overall is bullish or bearish, you will get a period of a week or so when suddenly everything goes up for a week or two. And since you only need a 25% gain to get the sell on lean aim, or, roughly 25% on regular aim, your leap will move enough to give you a sell. And then maybe go back, again. So, because I haven't seen any roaring bull market since April, I can tell you overall. Yet I've got a binder with 90 sells where the person's leap went up at least 25% on average within a month. That binder probably contains $150,000 in profits. And that's like 500 here, 2,000 there, over and over, So I think I've proven to the world that this way of investing works. And let me give you one other great bear story. I have a guy, he was one of my investors, okay? And I'll preface it with this. There's two basic type of investors. And if you ever watched Star Trek, you saw them. There's Mr. Spock, who is entirely logical. And then there's Bones McCoy, who is the most emotional wreck you'd ever want to see. So I used to kid people and I'd say, Captain James Kirk owns a stock and it goes way down. Bones would come running in there and going, confound it, Jim, sell the damn thing before we lose 100%. It's down 40%, sell it. And Spock would go, Jim, that's not logical. This is a very good company. It's just because of the overall economic conditions, COVID, the war between Russia and Ukraine. What we should be doing, Jim, is buying because basically this stock is giving us a Black Friday moment where we can get it for 50% lower. How many things are deflationary these days? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Wouldn't you buy your Porsche if it was suddenly 50% off? I think so.
I don't think I'd fit.
So, why not buy the stock when it's 50% off?
Right.
I remember to this day, the very first portfolio I ever started was in 1993. It was a stock portfolio because leaps didn't exist. Well, I still have that portfolio in my newsletter 30 years later. It started with 15,000 in 1993. It has grown to 265,000 in the 30 years. And I didn't even bother to figure in the dividends for about the first 10 years. And the very first stock I ever picked for my portfolio was IBM. Why? Because I didn't know much 30 years ago. I've learned a lot in 30 years. I read in Barron's and it said, IBM stock is selling at $40 a share, which is the lowest price in 25 years.
Jeez.
And I'm thinking to myself, who in their right mind would sell IBM at the price that is the lowest in 40 years, 25 years? They would have had to buy it more than 25 years ago to be selling it at a profit. I said, the only logical thing to do with a quality company like IBM is to buy more at the lowest price in 25 years.
Yep.
Well, 25 years later, the 1,500 I started that stock with in my model portfolio is now worth about $38,000 on the stock alone, not the leap, the stock.
Right.
So, I've seen it over and over and over. It's very hard to kill a stock. I've never had anybody have a company go bankrupt that they owned a leap on. Now, well, I take that back because every now and then I tell people buy a risky one like Credit Suisse. At one point I told them to buy, and that one kind of went into Never Land. But on one like that, I might tell you buy one contract for $150 and shoot for the moon, or something. I would never have you put in a large sum of money. So consistently, I play with about the same 25 to 50 great options. Great ones are Tesla, Microsoft, AMD, NVIDIA, the cream of the crop. And here's the other thing to think about. There's basically 6,500 stocks that trade in the United States. There's only 500 that have leaps. So right off the bat, if you're just looking for leaps, you are immediately picking the top 5-10% of all stocks out there to begin with, and you're not going to get stuck with some lemon, And again, if you see one that you think is really shitty, you can play puts on it, I've learned a lot. And what I'll recommend to people now is I look at each individual stock. I don't take a broad view of the market. So if you wind up buying 10 leaps with me helping you, you might wind up with 7 calls and 3 puts. Because like right now, I have Disney as a put in one of my portfolios and it's making good money. Now, once I see something miraculous happen, like I see 2 or 3 months of the put going down, I'll switch it to a call. I might lose a few profits doing that, but I've made profits during the bear period on that leap. And so, it's the perfect way. And I tell people, I said, think about this. You think Fidelity Magellan can suddenly switch from puts to calls on $30 million of stock? No, they can't. So you might think the big boys have all the advantages, but guess what? The big boys are on a battleship and you're on a speedboat. Guess what? It's a lot easier to turn a speedboat around than it is a battleship. Yeah, and head the other direction. I can switch somebody from a call to a put in maybe 5 minutes, because it's easy. All you got to do is, you sell the one, the money's immediately available, and you immediately turn around and buy the other. So you might sell the put and buy the call, or sell the call and buy the put, right? And it's only going to cost you a cross transaction of $1.30 per contract. So you could do that with 10 contracts for $13. Not too bad.
Right.
Well, I'll give you one more. Let me just give one quick story of, because I gave you the Bones McCoy example, and I gave you the Mr. Spock example. I had a guy who was a doctor, a PhD in psychology, and he was a therapist for a living. I find this ironical. He was the biggest worrywart I ever saw. He would live and die with what the stock market did every day. I could never, I wound up giving him therapy. I found that ironical, to try and shake him out. And I had made him, when the market was bullish, I had made him well over 500,000, So you think he would have remembered that? No. Well, one day he tells me, one day the Dow Jones went down like 1,100 points and actually it went up 900 the next day. Okay. Well, he sends me an email saying, I sold everything I own and everything my girlfriend owned on the worst possible day ever.
Oh, geez.
Well, his girlfriend, one of her stocks or leaps was Facebook at the time, Meta now. And she had put 58,000 into Facebook. Her leap had gone from $20 when she originally bought it down to $2. They can do that. They can go down 90%. Well, I have bear buy and super bear buy strategies that conserve your cash, so she never ran out of money. So I had sent him, because he was doing the trading for her, because she didn't know nothing about it. And I said, Jay, buy 20 more contracts for your girlfriend. Well, I get the email the next day and he said, I sold everything. And the girlfriend's 58,000 had gone down to 18,000 when he sold it.
Oh, no.
Well, I save everybody's old spreadsheets because I never know, it might do me. I love, compiling data and statistics. I happened to stumble upon it like a year later. And I said, I'm curious. I wonder how her Facebook has done over the last year. It was still open. It hadn't expired. Well, Jay should have listened to me because her Facebook leap had gone from $2 to $72 in a year. So if she had done nothing and just sat with the spreadsheet in front of her eyes, her 18,000 would have grown to 382,000 in 1 year.
Wow.
I've seen that over and over. So I felt so bad for his girlfriend to have a stupid boyfriend like she had, who doesn't know a damn thing about investing and thinks he knows more than me with 30 years experience. I mean, I probably spent 30 or 40 hours trying to reach him and convince him of what the stock market does in real life, and that you don't worry about these drops occasionally because they'll be exceeded by the gains later on. But I couldn't reach him. There's just certain people you can't reach. And, I felt so bad for her, that he,
Are they married now?
no, he's still living in Albany too,
Yeah.
I told him, I said, if you were doing AIM, you wouldn't have to live in Albany. Who the hell wants to live there? I mean, the first thing I always used to tell a lot of my investors, because a lot of them are thinking, they're going to retire in a few years.
Yeah.
If I find out they live in California or New York, I said, the first thing I can do to help you make more AIM profits is have you move to Nevada, Texas, or Florida, where there's no income tax.
Yeah.
There's 8
Yeah.
states with no income tax. So that, plus the weather's a hell of a lot better than Albany. Albany weather sucks.
We're in Michigan, so our weather's
Well,
not
you got
great.
my deepest sympathy. I had to spend a year in Michigan one time. You ever been down to Warren, Michigan, just north of Detroit?
Of course.
I worked at the Tank Automotive Command there for a couple of years. And it was funny. I had just gotten a fiance visa for my wife, future wife, who lived in the Philippines. So always wanted to come to America. Well, next thing you know, we arrive in Detroit about December. Michigan had the coldest winter since the turn of the century in 1983 when I was there. One day, I lived in a house with an unheated garage, Well, my old car started when I went, to drive to work, picked up my coworker. We got about halfway there. My car died going across railroad tracks.
Oh no.
And it wouldn't start again. So we started walking the last mile to the Tank Automotive Command. I thought I was going to die. The temperature was minus 10 degrees. The wind chill was minus 50.
Yeah.
I've never had that level of cold in my life, and I never
It's,
want to see it again.
It feels like every day. So
And my good buddy Don was a lifelong Michigonian, and he'd always be coming in cheerfully saying, "Say yes to Michigan," and I'm going, Don, I'm going to say no to Michigan as quickly as I can.
yeah.
And
Well, so Jeff, so you've been a
yeah,
wealth
ask
of
me some
knowledge.
questions. I'm taking too much of your time, I'm sure.
No, it's you've answered quite a bit of stuff just instantly. Let's say the only question I guess that we have kind of left is, what is your best advice in life, whether it's your business, whether it's life, that you would give anybody that's out there?
What I would give anybody out there is the foundation for a successful life lies finding the perfect investing method for you. And you have to faithfully follow it up and down, regardless of it, you get a little discouraged at times because, if investments only went up, we would have no workers. Everybody would just invest. So what I tell people is long term, there's so many great ways to invest that you don't have to ever, learn them all. All you need to find is one or two methods of investing that work for you, that are comfortable for you, fit in with your lifestyle, and it will, not only will it make you the money, you'll become very popular with your friends when you teach them, because they're going to thank you so much. Oh, thank you, Charlie. I never would have known about this if you hadn't told me, So that's what I feel so good about. And I always encourage all my investors, share it with your kids and grandkids, family and friends, everybody. And, if they want me, it might lead to more business for me, but it'll definitely lead to more profits for them.
Are you still taking on more clients then?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
I don't have any, I used to write in my book, I said at one point, so to give you an idea, I try and appeal to everybody. I have a really cheap lean AIM method for somebody who's only got 1,000 or 2,000 to invest. But if you look at my newsletter, I have a portfolio. I was trying to reach out to the wealthy people of the world. So I started a portfolio with $20 million and 10 leaps. And you'd be amazed how many contracts you can buy when you start with 2 or 3 million in leaps, and cash. So I was able to put in ones like Tesla, Amazon, Goldman Sachs, ones that most people can't even afford. And in 4 years, that portfolio has grown 69%. So it started with like 23 million. I believe it's up to 59 million in 4 years.
Sure.
In this current market, which isn't that good,
So if people wanted to get a hold of you, how would they do that?
Oh, the easiest way is, and I give away 2 free books. One is my original book called I Guarantee You Will Buy Low, Sell High, and Make Money. And the other one is 50 about one-page tips that I used to put an AIM tip of the month in my newsletter. I still do. And I have about 50 of them, and I compiled them into a book that's not published, but I'll give both of those away for free. And the easy way to remember me is my website is jjjinvesting.com. And my email, very simple, is Jeff, Jeff, at jjjinvesting.biz, B-I-Z. All you have to do is tell me, send your free books. I'll send them, get them started. And I have some other good stuff to show them. I'll send them my lean AIM article. It's a 5-minute read, on investing. And everybody is welcome to call me. I'm a glutton for punishment. Okay, they can call me. I love to, as you can tell, I love talking about this.
Yeah.
You can't shut me up. It's basically the problem most people find with me, because I have a little bit of Asperger's in me. So I think what that did for me, which was good, because it did a lot of bad for me too. I had a hard time dating when you don't have social skills, I can tell you. And what I found is I am basically a savant on AIM investing. There's nobody in the world who knows more about AIM investing than I do. And there's very few other people who even do it,
Yeah.
Nobody else is teaching it. When people used to ask me, oh, how's your competition doing? And I go, I don't have any competition. Nobody else does this, and show you how I find it amazing, so I love helping people with it. I'm going to keep doing it as long as I stay in good health. But I want to, and get this, I gave a course. I created a course. There's a great company called Miracy. If you ever want to develop a course, they are the people to go to. I could send you information on that. Wonderful people. They even assign you a coach. Well, in 4 months, I created a 6-hour course based on my books and other information. I held 2 sessions on 3-hour sessions on August 26th and 27th. I managed to sign up 23 people for that course, and each of them paid me $495. So I made like $11,000 from teaching that course, and they were all very grateful. Plus, I've already had 2 of them sign up as clients.
That's great.
So, I've received many compliments.
And that's Mirasee?
Yeah, Mirasee. Go to mirasee.com. And get this, the course is incredible. Okay.
Yep.
It's very well organized. And get this, here was my cost for an 8-month course, with tons of lessons, a coach. I had to pay $500 for the course. And then they ask you to voluntarily pay something every month for 6 months, minimum of $10. So I paid the $10. I didn't have the money at the time. Well, my coach, Wendy, liked what I did so much, she's signing up as a client. That's a good compliment.
That's
And
great.
she told me I was by far the outstanding student that she coached for the first session, and she probably had 50 or 100 people she's coaching. So, if it wasn't for her help, I never would have done it because I panicked over the technology required. But thanks to her patience and putting up with me, I conquered that, was able to get good with the technology. And then luckily for me, I have a partner who's tech savvy. And not only do we teach the course for the 6 hours, we compiled 6 1-hour videos, and they're all on YouTube, and we're going to sell that at some point.
There you go.
And they came out perfect because I watched them.
Good.
So, it was a great success. I really felt good about it. And it's funny, I don't know if you can see this. Here's another great book I would recommend. I'll tell you the name of it in a minute, but you can see here, it's called So Good They Call You a Fake. When I tell people I've made them $10 million with no shoes and no shirt, they basically think I'm a fake.
Yeah.
How could you do that in your sunroom? You don't have any staff. You don't have anybody else. So he said, basically, you almost, you're going to love, he said, the most successful people who run courses have lots of critics who say that's impossible. Nobody could do it, whatever. Well, you come into my sunroom, I'll show you 30 years of proof that what I do is absolutely correct, works, and has made people over $10 million.
That's great.
And it will keep making them the money as long as they keep doing it. So you should think about signing up for it.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I say I'm going to look into it. I wrote down a bunch of notes. You gave a wealth of knowledge. Say my tap water tonight was great. David, how were your beers?
Loved them both.
I say
Shout out to New Holland.
that's good. Jeff, we hope you had a good time. Stick around with us for just a couple seconds.
Sure.
Everybody, again, like, subscribe, share, tell your friends, tell your family. We hope you got a wealth of knowledge. We're going to link all Jeff's information in the notes
In the
and
show notes, yep.
get a hold of him.
And we'll talk to you guys next week.
Yeah, and let me know if you make a link of this. I'd love to see it again.
You've dialed in
To Box and Brews, you might hear something
you can use.
like tips on your cash or tips on the suds.
You're gonna want to
The
use
smarts of these
because
stuff.
they know the
And
brews.
they know the box, and they know they can't help the stubborn fucks.
So listen up, cause shit's not funny.
And save yourself some
Beer money, bucks,
and brews.
Bucks and
Bucks
brews.
and brews.
brews.
Bucks and brews.